The pattern I'm sharing today is a little bit of a tongue twister. It's called Cape Cod Capelet, and it's a capelet from Itch to Stitch. It's a new pattern, special for beginners, special for sewing holiday gifts. Very easy to sew. I've got one in lace and another one, and I have a full sew along for this pattern, so don't miss out and keep watching. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina. This is Lifting Pins and Needles, a channel all about sewing, limitless sewing. Welcome back if you're always stopping by, and if you're new to the channel and you love to sew, you'll see a lot of that here with 2 to 3 times a week videos. And with every single one, there's always lots of practical things that you can take away for your own sewing. Today I have a new pattern released by Itch to Stitch to share with you. I have been a pattern tester, and as I mentioned, the name was a bit of a tongue twister to say, Cape Cod Capelet. I think it's genius, and I've got one on here so you can see it. I've made one in a non-traditional fabric, as I love to do. This is a stretch lace, and the features are that it has like a cow neckline, it's got raglan seam lines there, and it's got a high-low hem, so a little bit shorter in the front, a little bit longer in the bottom. And the sleeves are made by sewing these seams partially. So it's designed to be made with light to medium weight knits that stretch from 25 to 100%. Basically, you can use a wide range of knit fabrics for this. You know, this isn't technically a knit, it's stretch lace, but you know, it does stretch, so it is appropriate at 25% stretch. The one I have here is a wool blend sweater knit, which is super appropriate. I can't find these fabrics here in Brazil. I brought this one with me from Chile, so perfect choice for this pattern. And then if you really have access to like luxury wool jerseys like cashmere or merino, go for it. This could be super luxurious if you had the right fabric. And this is the perfect type of pattern to use expensive luxurious fabric in without the fear of ruining it. This pattern is extremely easy to fit. The only measurement given to you on the size chart is the bust. So waist and hip measurements don't matter. And even though there is a bust measurement there, it's only a reference, because actually this seam here is very short, making the sleeve. So under the arm here, the underarm, there's nothing really restricting, and it's just a very easy to fit pattern, which makes this a great holiday gift idea. You know, if you want to make something easy to sew that looks amazing with a really nice fabric for a friend, and you're not sure if it's going to fit, this is going to fit, you know, it's going to fit. The size for this pattern is not numeric, so you'll see that the sizes come from extra small to extra large, with a bust of 32.5 to 46 inches, and as reference, a 2-inch positive ease for these measurements. But as I said, the seam for the sleeves is not sewn up to the top, so under the arm here, there's nothing restricting your movement. So basically you can have like a bigger circumference than what the pattern says, and it actually says that it's only a reference, you know. So if you're between sizes, you just choose the size that you think you like best. I'm between a size M and a size L for my bust, and I just chose to make a size large. You know, I could have fit into the size M as well, but I just went with the large. I am sharing now a full sew along for this video from the beginning to the end. If you're new to sewing, this could be super helpful for you. This is an extremely easy pattern to put together with only 5 main seams and then 2 little seams and a hem. Very simple to put together, and you know, once you get the hang of these, you can make a lot of these to give away for Christmas, and I'm going to be doing that. I can't find the right fabrics here in Brazil, but I will be looking for those in Chile when I go for the holidays and making them up for my family members. You know, they'll love it. There are only 3 pattern pieces for this capelet. This is the back there that's cut on the fold. This big piece here in the middle is the sleeve, and then that's the front that's also cut on the fold. Very few pattern pieces for this super simple pattern. This is the front that's on the fold. You can tell it's the front because the neckline is lower, and that's the back, the neckline is higher. I've got them folded because or else they wouldn't fit on the table. Those are the 2 sleeves that are extended, one on top of each other, and that's the cow neck. The sleeves have a double notch. That means that that side goes attached to the back, and a single notch, which means it goes attached to the front. The construction is super easy. What I have here in the center is the back. The double notches are there, and I've got a sleeve here and I've got a sleeve over there. You can see where the double notches meet there, and they meet over here. So that seam needs to be sewn and that seam needs to be sewn. These two seams have been pinned right sides together. I've just got it all extended so you can see. I'll just put pins there to hold the two layers together. Here are where the double notches meet for the sleeves here and for the back. And the same on the other side, double notch with double notch. And all this pattern uses 3/8 seam allowance. I'm going to be serging the edges and then sewing the 3/8 seam allowance with my sewing machine. But if you have a serger that sews knits properly, you can just do all these seams with a serger at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'll be using a zigzag stitch. Number 7 just means that it's a zigzag stitch on my machine. It could be different on any others, or it could have a manual system with knobs. This is the stitch width and this is the stitch length, which means the zigzag will barely be noticeable. It will mainly look like a straight stitch with a little bit of waviness because the width is so small. And that'll give it a nice finish, and it'll also stretch as you move. I have already serged the edges. I find that serging is sometimes faster and then I don't have to worry about pins. So now I'm just going to glide the edge of the fabric against the 3/8 of an inch mark on the plate there underneath and just sew along all these seams. You can see the double notch where I'm sewing the sleeve to the back piece. Okay, you can barely see the stitch line, it's right there because I'm sewing with matching grey, but you can see it will stretch. It looks like a straight seam there, but it does have that little zigzag that's barely noticeable, and it will allow it to stretch. The stitch that the overlocker does also stretches. So it's a stretchy type of seam for a knit garment that works with your normal sewing machine. If you didn't have a serger and you wanted to finish the raw edges, you could just zigzag along there with a different stitch length for the zigzag. So you'd need it wider and longer so that it actually catches the edges there. So now is the second seam that unites the back to the other sleeve. Right, so the sleeves have been sewn to the back piece. The seam has been pressed towards the sleeve this way on both of these. You can see how I've marked back with chalk there on my pattern piece. Now in this empty area comes the front piece, and that needs to be attached to that seam and that seam. So I've put the front piece there where this sort of circle had a piece missing. It's not a full circle, I think it's almost a circle. And the single notches are there and there. These seams need to be put right sides together. So the right side there is touching that one, pinned up all the way up, that one too. And I'll repeat what I've done on these other seams, pass them through the overlocker and then sew them. I've got the capelet on my pressing board, and this is the front here. I can see the chalk. This is the front, this is the sleeve, and so all these seams go pressed towards the sleeve. And it's the same thing I did to press the back sleeve, you know, when I already attached that. Throw lots of steam on it. Now, this is not the traditional sleeve, you know, this is a cape, but it will become a sleeve in a later step. So that was the front there. This is the other seam. This is the other sleeve seam. This is the sleeve on the other side. So the seam goes pressed this way. You can see on this other side that I'd already pressed, that the seam is pressed this way towards the sleeve, and on this side they're both pressed that way towards the sleeve. This is the cowl neck that I've cut. It was a piece that was cut on the fold like that. And now all these pieces, when you look at your knit fabric, you need to make sure that this goes at the greatest stretch. Some fabrics stretch horizontally like this, but not down. In this case, the vertical stretch of this fabric is minimal. It is there, but it's not that much. So all the pattern pieces need to be cut, you know, with the greatest stretch going across your body, as is this cow neck. That is super important, or else you're not going to have stretch around your neck to put it in and out, and it'll be super uncomfortable. So this one just needs to be sewn there. That seam there, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now this one will get sewn with the same stitch, but I'm not overlocking these, I'm not serging them. I'm just going to sew this normally. So instead of having a long fabric, I have a tube now. This has been sewn. I can just finger press this open. Actually, the fabric is pressing open itself. And I just need to find the middle there with my fingers and bring this together, wrong sides together. There. And fold this onto each other. I'll put a pin through the seam to keep it together. So where my needle is going in, it's coming out on the seam as well. So this is very similar to attaching a neckband. I have one pin there and I want to divide this in half. So this is the other half right there, and I'm going to put a pin to reference this half. And after dividing this in half, I want to divide it in quarters. So what I'll do is open this again, meet these two pins there in the middle, and these two other middles would become the quarters. So I've got a circle and I've got 4 pins, that one, that one, that one, and that one, 4, being divided into 4. And I have done the same thing with the neckline. This is the neckline. All the seams have been sewn, the seams have been pressed, and it's been divided into 4. So this is the center back, that is the center front. I've met these pins in the middle there, and then found the half of that to make a quarter there, and to mark a quarter there. Now these quarters don't match the seams of the sleeves at all. And so this, I've got the back right here. And where I have this seam, this is going to be the back. I'm going to slide this on top of the neckline. So the neckline is going to be inside this. And I'm going to match these 2 pins. This is the center back. This is the center back of the cow neck. And I'm going to pin that there. And then match this pin to the next one, to the next quarter over here. And do the same over here. And then the one that needs to be matched is the front one, center front with the center front here. I've got 4 pins again, 1, 2, 3, 4. The neckline is inside, the collar is outside. This is right sides together. And now this needs to be sewn. Now this is not like a neckband where the neckband is smaller than the neckline. These seem to be the same size, so that will just make it easier to sew. Basically, I want to make sure that the seams I've pressed towards the sleeve stay in that same direction and they don't move when I sew. So I'm going to pin them down so that they don't move to the wrong side. So I'm going to do this seam now on the sewing machine. I'll do it on the sewing machine first because I feel for a seam like this I have more control. And then I'll overlock the edges. Most of your sewing machines will have this that you can remove, and I'll remove it just to be more comfortable. And I'll just choose any place to start. It doesn't really matter at what part you start. Make sure that the neckline doesn't move from underneath and that it always matches the edges of the cow neck piece. And using the same 3/8 seam allowance, I'm always touching with my fingers to make sure there's no puckers or little pleats forming there, you know. Okay, so I've got a round seam, this has been sewn, and now I'm going to overlock. If you don't have a serger, you could zigzag the seam together to neaten it up because there's quite a few layers that might look a bit messy right there. This is how the garment is looking. It's almost done. The cow neck is on at the top. All the seams have been sewn. It's basically 4 main seams, 2 on the front and 2 on the back, and then a 5th seam will be the collar. And now this round hem is pretty long, pretty big. That just needs to be hemmed. Now the way I'm going to do it, I'm just going to overlock the edge and then fold it up. And to help me be really precise and neat with the folding up, I like to just hand baste the hem allowance up all the way around, and then I'll press it and then I'll sew it on my sewing machine with a twin needle. There's two options for this hem. One of them is to fold once at 1/4 inch, leaving the raw edge, and then fold again at 1/4 inch and top stitch. And the other option is just to fold up once at 1/2 inch and use a cover stitch or whatever method that you can. I don't have a cover stitch, so I'm folding up at 1/2 inch and I'm using my seam gauge to help. So these are really handy little tools, very very handy. And I've got that blue reference marked at 1/2 inch there, and so I just place it there and make sure I'm pinning, you know, nice and even all the way around. And I'm just going to pin a few, like an area of this, and then I'm going to hand baste this on all the way around the circle. Here you can see the garment inside out. You can see the seams, and you can see that the hem has been pressed up and hand basted on. Now I don't have to worry about pins falling or keeping this hem nice and even. All I have to do now is sew with the twin needle and the hem will be done. After that, 2 little seams are left on this garment and it'll be done. Now this whole cape has been sewn with that little zigzag stitch. I'm going to change it back to a straight stitch in order to do this hem, and the length of this stitch is going to be longer at 3.5. I have good results with that. Ignore that number, that doesn't matter with straight stitch. And I've got my twin needle set up. Here is 1 reel of thread and the other one is down here behind it. So one thread is coming through there and the other one's coming through there. They're both going through the machine the same exact way, and then the 2 threads are coming out through there and one each through one of the needles of the twin needle. Maybe you can see the 2 threads there and they're each being threaded through a needle. There's just one normal one at the bottom, and when this sews it'll create like a zigzag on the back, and this is a seam that will allow stretch. I'm going to be sewing with the right side of the fabric up. You can see the basting stitches there, and I'm going to be guiding the edge of the fabric there where it says 1/2 inch right there. Now that there's a seam coming, I'm going to be careful and just go slower on top of there. Once I'm over the bulk, I can keep going faster. This is how the hem is going to look. You can see the double row of stitching right there, and on the other side it stretches as well. Then these will just be pulled out, and I'm going to keep sewing all around this circle. Now here you can see that I'm almost at where I started. You can see the loose threads there. So I'm going to stitch right up to there. I'm not going to go past or back tack. I'm going to stop right where I started. So that is where I started. That's where I stopped. You can see the threads here from the start and the finish. And at the back you will have your bobbin thread. 2 of them at the back and 4 at the front. So I'm going to thread these through a needle and pull them back over here and then knot them here so that the hem here will be seamless. Okay, so all the threads are at the back now, and now I'm just going to grab them by 3s and just do a good old knot here at the back. Nothing fancy, just to secure them there, and then snip. And on the right side, the hem looks beautiful. It looks like it never started or stopped there. It's right there, that little area where I started and stopped. And at the back, there's a little knot that no one's going to see. Now the next little seam might be visible on the right side of the cape. So I've got 2 shades of grey. Always when you have 2 shades and you're working with a fabric that has like a mix of shades, I would go to the darker tone. It will blend in better and sort of get lost within the fabric. This one might show up a little bit. This one might be fine for sewing the seams inside, you know, that's fine. And actually the twin needle, I did 1 row with the lighter one and 1 with the darker one, and you can't tell, but for the next seam I'm going to use this darker thread. So the hem around has all been done, the basting threads have been removed. This is how it looks with the twin needle on the other side. It's super neat. Now the last step involves a little stitch in the ditch. So here where the seams are for the sleeves on both sides, that one and this one there is a notch inside that needs to be found. So there it is. I'm just gonna look for the front notch and put a pin through it. I put a pin through that front notch so that it shows here right there when I put this back, meeting this exactly there at the hem where both seams are there. That needs to be sewn in the ditch, uniting these 2 seams up to there where that notch was. So it's only a little small area that will close off the sleeve part of this cape and separate the sleeve from the body. So from there to there, where I have that little pin right there, I'm going to hand baste it first and unite this seam to the one on the bottom, and they have to be right on top of each other so that then you can sew right in there where those seams meet. So it's the same for this one and for this seam over here as well. Okay, maybe you'll be able to see, this is the pin, the notch that I marked that was inside the cape there, and this is the hem, and I've done a basting stitch there that meets both the seam on the front and the back right there. And now I'm just going to go to the sewing machine and start around there, back tack, secure, and then follow that ditch, that's what it's called, stitch in the ditch up to the hem, and sew this little area closed. So once I've set my presser full and my needle down right there, I'm going to get rid of this pin. This pin was just to reference where I had to start and stop, and then I'll go right on the edge. This is just a straight stitch. You can see the hem there where these 2 have to meet too. So I'm just holding them together with my fingers and finish the seam. Okay, so this seam has been sewn. I can remove these basting stitches. Some of these might have been caught within the seam that I've just done, so I'm just gonna have to pull them out. Actually, they didn't. Just a little bit on the bottom. So what this seam did was create the opening at the bottom for the sleeve, and now this area here is the body. So I just have to repeat that with this other side, there, down, and then the cape is done. So I obviously have the lace one here. There's nothing I did different to sew this one than I did to sew the one I showed you in the video. Stretch lace doesn't require anything special, at least this one didn't. It doesn't unravel. I could have left the hems raw because it doesn't unravel or curl up, but I don't cope with hems that are not done. So I finished the hem. Normally I serged it, folded it up, hand basted, did the same thing, and used a twin needle, and you know, the blue thread just hides in all this lace business, you know. So very easy to sew up, you know, and I love this so much. This other one, you've seen the process. It's easy to determine what is the front, what is the back, because the cowl neck has that center back seam there, so that's how you can know that's the back. Otherwise, if you look at it, you're like, what's the front, what's the back, you know? You can see how amazing this print is. It's got like silver things on it. I don't know what it is. It's like paint on the fabric. I'm not sure. You can see how nice the hem looks with the twin needle all the way around. I love the fact that it mentions folding up 1/2 inch, because on a round hem, I think that's the biggest hem you can have. And I've found other patterns mention bigger hems, like 1 inch. I don't agree with that. I think 1/2 inch is perfect. Here, there you can see the seams, and I've shown you in the direction that they were pressed towards the sleeve for the front and the back, and how the collar has been attached there. So easy. This collar is not smaller than what you would find in a neckband, where the neckband is smaller than the neckline. You have to be stretching and things. So this collar was very easy to sew up to the neckline. That's what gives it the sloppy look that it's meant to have. I lengthened mine, as I mentioned, a little bit just to account for my height. I am taller than the drafted height. And if you look at lots of photos, it seems to be quite short. I prefer a bit longer length. And that's why I have a little bit extra length on the front, while still keeping the high-low effect, still longer at the back. And being sheer, I love that you can actually see like the details of the seam lines here. I think it's extremely flattering. You can wear this on top of a dress, jeans, whatever you want, and whatever fabric you make it in is going to give it a really different look. So that's the lace one.
Don't you think this is starting to wear on me? You've been raining down like hail. I'm weak. I have tried to give you my soul, but you can't love something you own. It's too late to repent.
Okay, believe me when I tell you I did not want to put this on to show you, because it is so hot and I'm dressed up in a wool blend, you know. It's 100 degrees right now and it's rainy season. That's why it looks really dark, you know. But this is how this one looks. It looks totally different. Although the pattern is exactly the same, I've made the same length adjustment. You can see how the sleeves are so dramatic there. And the sleeves are just made by sewing that seam just a little bit up to there, you know. Amazing pattern. I love it so much. Here up close you can see these seams here that make up for the sleeves, you know. And the sloppy collar there I find amazing. It's not like choking you, it's not restrictive at all, it's just perfect.
What can I do? Time flashed by and I woke up on the other side of the moon. The sun don't rise, all the light is gone from me and you. Time flashed by and I woke up on the other side of the moon.
If you can't already tell how much I love this by my face and by the words I've been mentioning all this time, I'm going to say it again. I love it so much. I think it's a great pattern. For the release week, it's 20% off, and you'll find that it's a very affordable price if you go and click on the website. My affiliate link is down below as always, and at no cost to you. If you purchase through there, I receive a small commission from that sale. So give it a go. Make it in different types of knits. If you have luxury knits, it'll be an amazing little capelet for you to wear on top of your other garments, and it will just make it look super elegant, whatever you're wearing. And I love it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, share, leave me a comment, all those things. And I will see you again on Friday with a super special video where I'm going to be showing you a lot of sewing makes that haven't been featured on the channel yet, unseen makes. So look out for that one. See you soon. Bye.